Welcome into another edition of New Track Record. Caleb Hatch and Justin Kinney with you. The off season is here, but there is no off season with this show. Well, no. I guess the entire off season is the off season. We still produce a show. We're just not like on top of things. Is that the best way to put it?
We're never on top of things. Let's be real. But both of us are in the studio this episode. You're back.
Yeah. So better sound quality. Apologies to everyone. I think my phone probably did not have the best signal. Just a wild guess. I don't think so either.
Was it bad, to listen to? Was it a bad?
That's what some friends texted me. Yeah? So I'm not surprised.
Was it too loud? Too soft?
No, there was just like noise in the background. So
Thanks for bearing with us.
Yes. If you put up with that, you can definitely handle this because we'll have studio recording equipment.
Yeah. Semi-professional.
Yeah. So first off, hi, Justin.
Hello.
So we have a lot to get to. This is the first off-season episode for 2023 going into 2024, but a very busy news week. We have schedule news. We have driver announcements. We have more details on thermal. We have HPD going away, but coming.
Don't panic.
Yeah, no, not leaving the series, just a different name. So we have a lot to dive into. Let's start with the schedule. The first bit of news came down earlier this week as we record here on Thursday, September 21st in the U.S. in the evening. Texas could be off the 2024 schedule per a source at the headline from Nathan Brown of the Indy Star. So usually it takes a few months for like the really negative story to happen in the offseason, but we get it week one. So it all comes down to contracts, and even though it was framed as a multi-year deal, as far as the latest contract, it could be off 2024. It could return in 2025 if it's off in 2024. But here's the bulk of the issue. NASCAR wants to race at COTA on March 24th. That's the same date as IndyCar at Thermal, and then IndyCar would run it at Texas April 7th. Easter weekend is the weekend following. Obviously, they don't want to run races 2 weeks apart. It just doesn't work for a racetrack. Now, again, the obvious answer is, well, why not do a doubleheader with IndyCar on Saturday night and Cup on Sunday? Well, they're also not interested in
Cup's
that.
Not interested.
NASCAR's even though Texas would be the perfect place to do something like that.
But NASCAR's isn't interested in sharing the show, which I don't really blame them.
No. So as far as what it will be, well, we don't know. They're trying to work on schedule options. And the other problem is, you have the Olympic break, so that eliminates 3 weeks in the summer.
Yeah.
Moving it to the fall, well...
You finish so early.
You finish early, and Nashville, September 15th, if you wanted to race at Texas in the daytime, you would have to move it to October. And really, ideally, it would be closer to, I don't know, not the first weekend in October, but the second. And obviously, IndyCar's not going to do that. So you're really struggling in finding a legitimate date because basically now it has to be a night race. And we do believe that IndyCar will at least have some night races on the schedule again.
At least a night race.
Yes. But this is tough. I mean, the only thing, and Brown points out in the story about, the race having to be moved in 2016 because it was postponed twice due to weather and finished on August 27th. But they're trying to find a fix here, but I just don't know if they can figure out an option that works.
Doesn't sound very promising. And this is what happens when you're low on the totem pole of priorities is NASCAR is going to get what they want. And then you're going to have to pick up the scraps around them. And unfortunately, that's the situation right now with IndyCar and Texas is basically Cup's going to do what they want to do. NASCAR's going to do what they do. And then you have to adjust accordingly. And I don't blame Texas not wanting a race a couple weeks after COTA. So IndyCar's going to try to figure it out, but at least it's just a 1 year. This isn't a end all if this indeed happens. But with only 17 races on the schedule, anytime you face a possible loss of a race, it hurts because you'd be down to 16 races then. Points paying races, not counting thermal and not counting Argentina.
And Texas is countered with a September date, but again, can't be September 15th. There are reports that Milwaukee could be offered, Labor Day weekend to try to give it a boost in attendance. Do you go?
And do you go Milwaukee, Texas,
Nashville? I mean, I guess that's pretty busy.
Well, you ended with three races in 3 weeks to end this season.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, but then it means where does Laguna Seca is moving up, but where does Portland then go? It would have to be late August then, right?
Yeah,
you can't go 4 straight weeks.
The other thing is you're going to have to move several races around, and Brown gets to a lot of that in his schedule article, also on the Star, as far as where things stand. The good news, as he points out, in IndyCar, now we expected this schedule to come out, well, ideally, Laguna Seca weekend, and then we were told end of September. Well, now they're kind of in a holding pattern trying to figure out Texas, obviously, so it still may be a little bit more time. NASCAR's schedule believed to be a couple of weeks away, according to Bob Pockris of Fox Sports. So IndyCar is still looking for that end of the month announcement. But again, it comes down to the races. Milwaukee likely to be back on the schedule. We know that. And then beyond that, it comes down to how to figure out Texas. And then if you fit that in the schedule, then you got to move a lot of other races around. So there are rumors of a doubleheader at Gateway, which again, they ran in 2020. But Brown says, though, as of Monday of this week, track official told IndyStar those discussions had not taken place. So there's some that we know, some that we don't know. So as far as what we know, St. Pete, March 10th. Thermal, March 24th. Long Beach, April 21st. GMR Grand Prix, May 11th. The Indy 500, May 26th. Detroit, June 2nd. Road America, June 9th. And Nashville, September 15th. So as far as where things stand, Barber, Brown says April 28th would be the last weekend of April. Toronto, we just learned, will be July 21st. A new one-year contract has been approved. The Board of Governors of Exhibition Place for Green Savory Racing Promotions toast the street race the third weekend in July. That would be the final race before the Olympic break. And then Texas, Laguna Seca, Mid-Ohio, Iowa, a doubleheader there. Portland, Milwaukee, and Gateway, all unknown as far as their date on the schedule in 2024.
You know what you could do, Caleb? Have another race on the road course at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
You could run a non-points paying exhibition race in early October just to get the teams ready for the trip to Argentina.
The real non-point. Yeah. No, I'm joking. Oh my gosh, don't. I think, unfortunately, the move that affects other events the least is just not running Texas in 2024 and going with 16 races, unfortunately. But like I said, IndyCar does not have any priority over NASCAR whatsoever, and they're at what these racetracks want and don't want, and unfortunately IndyCar is kind of stuck with that. And of course the Olympics really kind of putting a wrench in everything, but that's just the way it is every 4 years.
And again, that Olympic break mentioned the September date for Texas. That would mean a really busy schedule to close out the season. And 5 straight weekends is pretty much unheard of in IndyCar as far as 5 straight race weekends.
No, I mean, gosh, yeah, I don't think you can do that. The only time we really have 5 straight is when you're counting the road course, qualifying, the 500, Detroit, Texas. It's kind of when, and that was 2 races at Detroit. So
in the GMR Grand Prix, the 500, Detroit, and then it's either been Texas or Road America, as you mentioned. Right. I mean, that's a whole grueling thing in and of itself.
Right.
So
plus, I don't think you really want. Do you want 1/3 of your season in barely a month and a half?
No,
I mean, not even a month and a half. I mean,
the good news is though, after the Olympic break, it's like fans have had some time and
true.
Think about this, like because of the Olympics, that's making fitting the schedule and tougher, and I think that's why it's more difficult. And just the fact that they actually have events they're adding as opposed to status quo or losing events, which has been more of the norm in previous Olympic years.
True.
So I think that's part of it. Laguna Seca, Brown says June 23rd, a popular assumption in the IndyCar paddock for that event. We knew it would be in June. Mid-Ohio is interesting because it could be June 30th or it could be July 7th. Now, if it's June 30th, you'd have a back-to-back with Laguna Seca and then going into the Olympic break. So it's just, how do you figure this out? So, and then Iowa will likely be July 13th and 14th. Portland is a wild card. This is one where do you go there after Laguna Seca and kind of move things around to have that trip?
I don't know if I mess with Portland because it's at least got some continuity there. And the attendance isn't phenomenal, but it's decent. And it now just has well, hopefully it's more than 1 year with BitNile being a title sponsor. So I don't know if you really mess with that right now. My question would be, if Texas is off the schedule for 2024, do you see IndyCar trying to add another event? I'm tongue-in-cheek saying a second road course race at IMS, or do a doubleheader weekend somewhere. Do you think they do that to get to 17, or do you think they stick with 16?
I think they try to get to 17, and Brown says that the race weekend of September 8th, which would be potentially between Milwaukee, which would move to Labor Day weekend, and then Nashville. That way you're having a couple of ovals and then a street course to wrap it up. Some momentum. You're also keeping it kind of closer as far as around the Midwest. I get it. Nashville's not Midwestern, obviously, but they're close.
Don't message us.
They're close. Justin took a lot of heat for that a couple years ago.
Borders the Midwest. Can we get
Midwest
upper
adjacent?
South, I guess you could say. Yeah,
as you called it. So that's a look at what they could be trying to do. Here's the thing, though. The bummer is Nashville is week 1 of the NFL season. So in the U.S., IndyCar is completely out of sight, out of mind. We saw that with the TV ratings for Laguna Seca. In Nashville, unless you're starting it at noon Eastern and 11 local time in Nashville.
This is not a good idea.
No. It's just, it's hard to get your Midwest base locked in. So that is what it is. Now, having oval street course to close it out, I think that's at least an entertainment factor that I would welcome. But again, though, you move Portland, date equity, we talk about this all the time. You move Portland and you lose that date equity of Labor Day weekend. Does that hurt the event?
Right.
Because it seems like that event's getting on solid footing.
That's why I think the minimal amount of affecting other races is just drop Texas and don't mess with the schedule and just go with 16. So I could very well see that. But I wanted to ask you a hypothetical question here, because next year we expect a non-points race in Argentina. That's expected. Let's fast forward and say at right now how you feel about the season being over, football starting. Like, let's say this year there's a non-points paying race in Argentina coming up next month. What's your excitement level if this right now, September 21st, was next year with this event coming up?
I think still pretty high. I mean, I go back to when they ran at Surfers in 2008, when that was an October race.
Right.
You have a gap, and back then the season didn't run as long.
True.
I think they were done in late August, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I don't even think they went into September.
And if they did, it was only like one weekend. So think about this. You have silly season stuff getting wrapped up in a lot of announcements. So then you would see drivers at their new teams for this exhibition race.
I guess I didn't think about that. Would you?
And that is, I would think so, unless they change how their contracts work. And I don't think that would happen because it's not a regular season event. Thermal is like, it's not a points paying, but it's during the course of the regular flow of the season. So I think that is an aspect that is intriguing to me. I need to go back and look as far as
that is a good
2008 at Surfers.
If that means new teams or new drivers with new teams, then yeah, that would be definitely intriguing. But I think I'd be excited. I think I'd be excited for the event and to see the crowd. I don't know if I'd necessarily be excited for the race itself. I mean, of course I'll watch, but I think I'd be really excited about IndyCar going to a market that seemingly is untapped and has a lot of excitement and borderline obsession with auto racing. Maybe too much, as evidenced with social media issues with Augustine Canapino.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But so in the 2008 race at Surfers, you had Dario returning to IndyCar, took Dan Weldon's seat at Ganassi. Weldon moved to Panther, replaced Vitor Meira, and Meira moved to Foyt. So all those changes had happened, and they were with their new team. So that's an aspect that I think adds a lot more intrigue. Like, for example, this year we'd have
you'd have Kyffin Simpson in a seat. You'd have
Ericsson at Andretti. You'd have Malukas at McLaren. I mean, you go down the list. Right. So I think that's an element that adds some intrigue because it kind of gives you a tease for the following season as far as new driver lineups. Yeah, and I think that's something that is different if there's enough separation. The key thing is there has to be enough separation. If it's only 2 weeks, it's not enough. If it's 3 weeks, a month or more, and I would think that running in Argentina, so if IndyCar wraps up September 15th, it would be at least a month before they race. At the earliest, it'd be like just, right around mid-October, October 10th or later, that they'd run this event. So that's enough time in between. And I think, yes, it's a good TV time also for your American audience. I get it. They may not be as locked in, but market that's going to pay you a lot of money to race there. I mean, they had 24 cars at Surfers in 2008. I don't know if there will be a cap, right, as far as the number of entries, because it comes down to budget and what they'll pay for transportation and shipping and all that. But to me, that's a draw. You have something new to look forward to that you didn't have at the end of the season. Yeah,
I agree. It's a good point about seeing maybe a preview of the upcoming season. And we'll get that too again with Thermal as well.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Because we'll have extra entries probably for that. We'll have more details on that in a bit. I'm fascinated looking through this event. So you had Will Power win the pole, Ryan Briscoe win the race.
Talking Surfers? Oh,
yeah. And that was, Will Power was with KV and he crashed.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an interesting event. So Briscoe, Dixon, Ryan Hunter-Reay, Alex Tagliani was fourth in a Conquest car.
Ooh.
A lot of interesting teams. So
very nice.
If only this event came back.
Maybe one
felt
of
like
these
we were
days
close a few years ago
when we have our international series.
Yeah,
in IndyCar.
but a fun event nonetheless. All right. So speaking of Thermal, Marshall Pruitt of Racer.com had a story talking about Don Cusick Motorsports trying to partner with some teams to give Steph Wilson a shot at this event. I saw someone call it the Thermal Super Prix on Twitter, so I think I want to call it that as well. But Cusick says they're talking with a couple of teams to try to partner with. So I would fully expect them to be a part of this event, which is good and not unexpected whatsoever.
Now, break down the rules for me because Marshall was able to explain those and break it down for us.
So 2 IndyCar teams that Cusick is in discussions with. So the update that Pruitt provided, so qualifying will be at 8:05 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, March 23rd. I found this interesting. IndyCar.com and IndyCar Radio. So that mean they're streaming on the site? No Peacock listed. I think that's interesting. And then, so there will be a random draw dividing the field into 2 groups. Each group receives a 15-minute qualifying session to determine the starting order of their respective heat race. The race itself, noon Eastern, Sunday, March 24th, NBC, Peacock, and IndyCar Radio. The 2 heat races will decide the 12-car field for the $1 Million Challenge. Laps under full course yellow will not count, kind of like going to your local short track. Pit stops for emergency service only will be allowed. The heat races will be 10 laps apiece. The top 6 from each heat advance to the final. And then the final is 20 laps. And there'll be obviously 12 cars in that. They'll line up according to their finishing positions in each heat race. Finishing order in heat race 1 occupying odd number. And then finishing order in heat 2 even number. And then $1 million for the winner. Second place gets $700,000. Third, $500,000. Fourth, $200,000. Fifth, $100,000. And most importantly, because this is how you get teams on board, 6th place through 27th place receive $23,000.
Very nice.
Very interesting cutoff though of 27.
Yeah. Now, is there an aspect for the thermal members? Don't they race too? Is there some aspect of that?
They'll partner with like a team and something about splitting some of the money for charity. Those details haven't fully come out yet, but that was in the original release.
I didn't know if there was an IndyCar race and then they raced and each of them partnered up with a team and you combined the result. I didn't know if that was something that was going on. Okay.
Could be possible. I haven't seen it, but look, I think they're still trying to figure things out. Now, this is also interesting. People, a lot of complaints, and I get it. People want to be able to go.
Yeah.
Limited number of tickets will be made available. They've said that before. It's believed IndyCar Nation fan club members could have first access to purchase tickets.
That's fine. Give them a perk if they're IndyCar fan club. I guess if you live near Thermal, you'd probably be a little salty that you can't go.
Yeah.
But with the amount of money that is being invested in this event and could come out of this event in terms of rich people with disposable income, I'm willing to be perfectly fine that people can't go to the race, or the majority of people can't go to the race.
And also, if you live near Thermal, that means you also live close enough to go to Long Beach.
Yeah, and
true. Have money to go to Long Beach, let alone
very true. Just go to Long
other
Beach.
Events.
Yeah.
So I guess I don't feel like it's all that bad in that scenario.
Not at
all. So that wraps up schedule talk. So we got more details on Thermal and obviously a lot more details on what the IndyCar schedule could look like. Maybe we'll have a schedule to discuss next week. We shall see. Meanwhile, the other big bit of news over the course of this week, Kyffin Simpson will run a 5th full-time car for Chip Ganassi Racing in 2024. The 18-year-old development driver from the Cayman Islands advances from the series formerly known as Indy Lights in a move that we both thought happened a year earlier than expected.
Peculiar.
Here's the thing. Ridgeline Lubricants, which is a major sponsor for the Ganassi team, Kyffin Simpson's father is behind that company. So you have the funding aspect. The car is funded. That's not an issue. You perhaps have Andretti reducing to 3, so you're not really taking away an engine lease. I know they're still trying to figure that out, but Honda's basically come out and said, if Andretti runs 4 and Ganassi runs 5, we'll figure it out. We're not going to limit teams, and they're not going to limit an entry that's funded and ready to go on a top team, obviously. So you look at his numbers, 10th in points. He did win a pole. He had 2 podiums and then 2 other top 5 finishes in the season, but 10th among essentially 13 drivers who competed either every race or every race but one. Like Ernie Francis Jr. missed a race. Kyffin Simpson himself missed a race. And then Jagger Jones missed a race as well. So that aspect, we thought he'd have another year in lights, but I mean, you can look at it as in, well, his lights experience is limited, but you look at other series, I mean, he's won races, so it's not like he hasn't won anything. He won Formula Regional Americas. He won the championship there. He's won some races in different Le Mans series, Asian Le Mans series in LMP2. He won a race. Also the European Le Mans series in LMP2. He won a race there. He's won a race in IMSA. In fact, a couple of races in IMSA. So he's raced more than just the ladder, the road to Indy, if you will, and had some success. But it's just the move up. This feels similar to Benjamin Peterson last year to this year, as far as moving up without a whole lot on the resume.
I think a lot of things here. We all agree that Kyffin Simpson probably isn't ready. I think if you probably asked Chip Ganassi off the record, he would say he's not ready. But whatever the machinations of this behind the scenes, whether it's a sponsor that was pushing the fact that they wanted Kyffin Simpson in the IndyCar series. I mean, the fact that it's his dad makes a lot of sense with that. Maybe it's just like, hey, we're just going to throw you into the wolves and you're going to learn, and you're going to have a year of sink or swim and probably tread in water. And then year 2, you'll come around and be a little bit more ready. But I think we're getting to a point with IndyCars every year. It seems like we have maybe 1 or 2 drivers that are in over their heads, and you just hope it doesn't kill their careers. Like you look right this year with Benjamin Peterson and Stingray Robb. Neither were ready for IndyCar, yet got here for monetary reasons.
But they won races in lights. That's the thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing. But they also made a a developmental investment in Kyffin Simpson. And who knows, when they had that developmental driver contract signed, maybe it was, you're going to be in IndyCar in 2024. Who knows? But the fact that Chip Ganassi now expanding to 5 full term entries. I mean, remember when they were 4 and they had the satellite team?
Yeah, the A and B teams.
And that didn't work. I mean, how far has Chip Ganassi come from that and getting rid of it and dropping back down to 2 to now 5 in the stable at Chip Ganassi Racing?
I mean, you look at Devin DeFrancesco, he had 2 podiums, no poles, no wins, finished 6th. In a way, similar results, higher in the championship.
In lights before?
Yeah,
his rookie season?
And he did lights for 1 year and then went to IndyCar. It's finished 23rd and 22nd, has yet to have a top 10 finish. So it's, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, it takes 2 to tango. If the driver brings the funding and the team accepts it, like, I would hope, like you said, like we've seen with Dylan DeFrancesco at least, and we hope we see with Benjamin Peterson and Stingray Robb, that it's at least a 2-year deal so that you can develop and have an opportunity, because year 1 is just going to be a steep learning curve. That's a lost season. You learn the tracks, right. You get experience, try to get as many laps in as you can. Obviously, all the track time is a bonus. And then year 2 is the year that you make that step. But, it comes down to it. If you have a sponsor who really wants that driver in,
especially when it's your father.
Yeah, it is what it is, right?
It's kind of hard to turn away that check, right?
Yeah.
And look, it's not my car. It's not my money. So if Chip Ganassi wants to take it and field this kid and have faith in him to not be a detriment on track and be an issue, then more power to you. I think it surprised us all. Hasn't shown the results in Indy Lights that we think you should before you move up. But again, it doesn't affect us. It's just kind of a puzzling move. But we'll see if at the very least in his rookie season he showed some signs of competency. You don't want this to be a one and done, and it's a situation where they're rushing him because dad's got the money and dad gets what he wants because he's the financier. Hopefully that's not the situation here, because it's obvious that he needs or should get another year of seasoning in lights.
Here's the thing. Having a driver who's well-funded and a guy who's been contributing to sponsorship for the team the last couple years now, you get him on board, so you keep that sponsor money, and it's not like Linus Lundqvist is really bringing you any money.
Right.
He just brings his talent and a helmet, and for the most part, same with Marcus Armstrong. So you added 2 young drivers who, contract-wise, are going to be really cheap. Obviously, Kyffin Simpson's going to be cheap contract-wise. So you have 3 drivers who are probably commanding, what, $250,000 each, roughly, and then probably incentives in their contract for benchmarks.
I mean, tops $250,000.
Yeah. And then you have Pelot and you have Dixon, who are probably costing you $5 million each a year in salary. So it's balancing it out,
right?
But also getting the sponsor dollars to make it work. And I get it. Adding a 5th entry means hiring a lot more crew and more engineers and more staff. And I think there's
That's
a story
where
they,
right? More jobs.
More jobs. I mean, you have probably already 10 posted, probably at least a dozen, if not even 2 dozen jobs just across multiple teams. It's not like IndyCar is their only operation. So that part is positive. But was I surprised to see this? Yes. Is he ready? No. But to be fair, how many of these guys, even with a lot of experience, are ready coming in the IndyCar?
We'll see. You just hope he's not a rolling chicane or becomes an issue and all that. That's the hope.
We thought Canapino could be that guy, and that's never been the case.
True.
This year.
Yeah.
So, and then Jimmy Johnson started off his rookie year, he spun out, but he wasn't taking people out. He wasn't a detriment as far as crashing other people.
Correct.
When he came in, and he did have noticeable improvement every weekend. And by the end of the year, when he had, IMS road course, for example, he had been a lot more competitive. But that was more of a learning curve than, Canapino or even what what Stingray Robb or Peterson face. So
yeah, in terms of open wheel experience,
I'm trying to keep an open mind here because Canapino, I think, has completely changed my mind as far as what's possible in these situations.
And I'm sure it's a multi-year investment, multi-year contract for Kyffin Simpson. This is just going to be very much a learning year coming up in 2024. You just hope it's not disastrous in terms of car damage and in terms of impact on races and other drivers.
For sure. So we'll see what happens with that. I think that's going to be one of the more curious things. And you look at the rookie class. I mean, you have Linus Lundqvist. You have Marcus Armstrong. Now you have Kyffin Simpson. Could we have one more?
Now, will Marcus Armstrong be considered a rookie?
Oh, you're right. No, he wouldn't be. Because
he won rookie.
He'd be a rookie for the Indy 500.
Yeah.
Good call. But then as far as other possibilities, Lewis Foster did a test the other day. So he could be a possibility. He competed a test with Andretti at Road America on Tuesday. His plans undecided for 2024. And then another driver on the horizon. You have a couple of guys set to test for Ed Carpenter Racing, Oliver Askew, and Christian Rasmussen will test for ECR coming up next week at Barber Motorsports Park. That test is set to take place on Monday.
With Christian Rasmussen, he's the Indy Lights winner.
Yes.
So he has the scholarship to use, potentially, maybe, hopefully.
Yeah, and at least I hope it gets him a Indy 500 seat, at least something. It at least buys him some tests, and I think that's pretty important as far as getting some seat time because we just don't have those opportunities anymore. That's the biggest thing.
No, not at all.
Friend of the podcast, Hickey93 on Twitter had a great stat talking about drivers who have graduated lights / next to IndyCar without earning a win in the feeder series. You have Devlin DeFrancesco in 2022, Dalton Kellett in 2020, Charlie Kimball in 2011, Rodolfo Lavin in 2003, Oriol Servia in 2000, Naoki Otori in 1999, Robbie Unser in 98, Afonso Giaffoni in 97, Marco Greco in 93, and Guido Dacco in 89.
Guido Dacco.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember him.
No, but I'm going to start using that as my my name when I check into hotels. Guido Dacco.
So I mean, Charlie Kimball won a race.
Charlie Kimball and Oriol Servia are the two outliers in that list that had
won a race,
significant IndyCar careers, not star careers, but they raced a fair amount of races, won a race, a couple races. So you hope it's more that than the majority, but it's not a very a star-studded list, so to speak. That's for sure.
And a couple other notes. Kyffin Simpson, intro oval test. Ganassi, we're going to get that in the next couple weeks. That would allow him to join the October 11th Indy 500 Rookie Orientation Program test. It could include Linus Lundqvist, Tom Blomqvist, that was the other rookie I forgot, Marcus Armstrong, and Kyle Larson. So that from Nathan Brown. So they need to do an oval test for the big oval test.
Yes.
Which makes sense.
Little oval to big oval.
And then this from Tony DeZeno, my favorite early Kyffin Simpson at Ganassi IndyCar staff for 2024. His birthday, October 9th of 2004. Scott Dixon's first of 6 titles for Ganassi came on October 12th of 2003.
Well, hey, if he wins 6 titles with Ganassi, then nobody will be saying anything about Kyffin Simpson being too early in the series.
No, they certainly will not. So that's a look at the major notes. We'll get to news and notes and the mailbag coming up. But first, if you agree or disagree with us, we'd love for you to interact with us. You can find us online, newtrackrecordpodcast.com. That's the website. While you're there, sign up for the email list. It's free. You'll never miss any episodes, special announcements. You can sign up for that for free on the site. Also on the site, we have t-shirts. We have stickers for sale. You can find us on social media, IndyCar Podcast on Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it these days, on Instagram, on Facebook, just search for New Track Record. You can also email us, newtrackrecordpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to support us, patreon.com/newtrackrecord. Thanks to Xavier, Rob, and several others for their support each and every month. Again, starting at just $1 a month to support us on there. And as always, you can subscribe and listen for free. Just download us on your favorite podcasting platform, Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, Overcast, Castbox, wherever you find podcasts, all for free.
We have a champion to crown.
We do. That's right.
We will have to bring the team principal of I Thought You Had the Keys. Congratulations.
Yes.
Winning the Friends of New Track Record podcast 2023 fantasy season. Held off Stux Racing by 5 points at Laguna Seca. So congratulations. I Thought You Had the Keys. We'll make sure we get the team principal on the podcast here soon.
Yeah, we will we'll work to get that done very, very soon. So if you're a listener, hey, just message us on any of the social media platforms, and we'll find a time to get you on to brag about your IndyCar Fantasy Challenge win, which we had, like 48 entries this year? It's pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty big. Every year we've kind of grown a little bit more and more. Mm-hmm. So it's been very impressive. Thanks for everybody for jumping on with us this season in the fantasy realm of things in IndyCar, and we'll do it again for 2024.
I'm glad you brought that up because I'll be honest, I totally forgot about it. We got to crown a champion. Yeah,
we do. I kept forgetting to give updates throughout the season, but glad we were able to crown a champ. I Thought You Had the Keys. Congrats.
I thought you had the keys.
I do not. Do not have the keys.
Mailbag time. This from NK Harden. One thing to consider with the All-Star race is the testing ground it gives IndyCar. Say they want to try out stages. Please no. But just as an example, they now have a live race to try it. They can get creative and try out new things in a race setting. Well, even just doing like the heat races, I get that they did this for qualifying in Iowa like a long time ago. But yeah, these are opportunities to try new things. I wish they'd invert the field for.
You want to do that? They invert?
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll do anything too radical because there is a lot of money on the line. I don't know if teams are going to be like, we don't want to try anything crazy because we're trying to win $1 million.
And it's a road course.
But I do think it's a testing ground for different things like the heat races. I wouldn't hate mandatory cautions at times to sweep the marbles.
Yeah.
That's just me. I don't know. But I wouldn't.
There's a fine line between the marbles hurting the racing product and then the marbles being swept up and improving the racing product.
Right.
And I don't know how you balance that.
Well, that's the fine line, right? Because tire degradation helps the show, but tire degradation to the point that marbles take away racing lines hurts the show.
Yes.
So how do you balance that? I don't think the series is doing enough to get rid of the marbles on racing surfaces.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that looks like. I'm not saying I have the answer. I'm not saying that there should be mandatory cautions at various intervals to sweep the track, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe would it be the best thing for events to do that?
It would certainly help.
For every driver and team that would be mad that they're leading and the caution comes out for that, you're going to have a multitude of teams and drivers that are happy about that coming out because it opens up more racing lines. And eventually it evens out in terms of the driver that's in first that hates it. The next time it comes up, they may be the driver in fourth that can't go on the outside because of the racing line. So I know it's not, I'm sure it's not being considered. I'm just saying more needs to be done to clean up the tracks of marbles.
Meanwhile, you posted this Kyffin Simpson, and the dodgeball gift. That's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them. Hunter's Way 67. Chip must be hard up for cash. Incarn said Dalton Kellett 2.0. Chip likes winners or really big checks. And then Beans B Card blog, the gif of Bugs Bunny counting the dollars.
One thing is factual. Kyffin Simpson is not in this seat if he's not bringing a lot of money.
Yeah.
Whether it's he's worthy or not, or has earned the spot or not, or is talented enough or not to get that seat, it doesn't happen if he's not bringing a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, that's the reality, right? No one's going to deny that.
No. Does it mean that he's going to perform exceptionally well? Maybe, but they're not adding a fifth car for somebody that they need to hire and pay.
Meanwhile, more thoughts on Kyffin Simpson. I posted because I didn't know what to say. Chip running 5 cars next year, ... when the news came out. Hunter's Way 67. This kid is going to get eaten up. Didn't do anything in next. Poet Shevchenko said taking over Andretti's engine lease. Unclear. I don't know, right?
Because we don't know for sure what Andretti's running.
So.
How many are running?
So that's kind of another question as far as what it will look like next year. I would tend to be surprised if Andretti runs a 4th, but then again, you don't want to give up that opportunity for that 4th leader circle in the future by not running it, right?
I mean, go back 4 years. If you would have told me that in 2024, Andretti's going to be running just 3 and Ganassi's going to be running 5, I would have been shocked. But could be reality for 2024.
How many of those things could we have said, though, over the last several years? Jimmy Johnson running IndyCar,
sure.
Kyle Larson running the Indy 500.
Oh, definitely.
Fernando Alonso running the Indy 500. I mean, the list goes on.
Yeah. No, I agree. But, Chip Ganassi, especially when they went from 4 to 2 and said it doesn't benefit us from going to 4, I never would have thought that anytime soon they would be at 5.
Yeah. No. I mean, Penske shrunk.
Yeah.
Andretti tends to look like they could shrink. So that's all something to keep in mind. So there was an interesting story by Adam Stern, Sports Business Journal, talking about, IndyCar, their viewership. They've stabilized. Things have gone back up. Yeah, it's only up 2%. Cup gets 3 times the audience of IndyCar. Cup receives 41 times more money than IndyCar, $820 million to $20 million, which is crazy. Now, you do have to keep in mind that Cup has, double the races?
Double the races.
IndyCar has 17 and Cup has 35?
30. Well, it's usually traditionally 36, but I don't think they have 36 anymore. I think it's 34, 35. Is that counting the All-Star race?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Cup has 3 times the TV audience, as Nathan Brown points out.
Yeah, Nathan Brown responded, because not only with Cup, but then you add trucks and Xfinity, and you're approaching 90-some races. So I get it, but at the same time, that's a lot more money that NASCAR is getting,
and longer races.
IndyCar. Yes, but at $2 million or $20 million to 840 million, that's just astounding difference in money. And I think it's a little bit of both, quite frankly. I don't think NASCAR deserves that much money. Excuse me. And I think IndyCar is not getting enough money.
I mean, you look at IndyCar's next TV deal, you would hope, one, because rights are just going up in period, and IndyCar's ratings, by even with incremental growth, are enough of a positive thing. You hope they double. I mean, if it's $20 million a year, do you look for 40 to 50?
I don't think NBC is going to pay double, but what if the CW comes out and says, we'll give you $50 million?
You got to take it, right? Even if your TV ratings are going to be down. Because you need that money.
That's going to be the debate. That's going to be the decision. And I think we're going to be talking about this a lot over the next year or so, is that could be a potential big decision that IndyCar has to make is, are we going to chase the money, or are we going to stay with the stable sports network over the newbie sports network? Because we can compare CW to Fox, but that doesn't mean they're going to turn into Fox necessarally.
They would if they buy ABC.
Well, yeah.
As far as Nexstar, the parent company.
Yeah, but it's going to be an interesting debate. I see with how aggressive the CW was to get the Xfinity series. I can guarantee you they're not just seeking one series, automobile racing series, and going to be done. I think they have sights set on other ones, and I can guarantee you they're eyeing IndyCar.
Meanwhile, Remy 8090 says, how does IndyCar make enough money? And the simple answer is it does not.
Well, the Indianapolis 500 is why. It subsidizes everything else.
Someone else pointed out, but also fewer than half the races. Yeah, that's a key component. But yes, it is. It's kind of hard to do all of that. Because of the aspect of half the races, but then you have the Indy 500 and it's the marquee event that dwarfs everything else.
Right.
It's another tricky part of it. As far as schedule talk, with Texas potentially going away, Hunter's Way 67 says, so if they drop 2 races, Texas, Indy Road Course 2, and add 1 Milwaukee, we're down to 16 points paying races week. Another thought, Chad _15 said Homestead as far as the option
Would people go?
Well, and you got to fit it in early on the schedule, right? Because it's not really
Correct.
something that fits later. You're not racing late enough for it to be a good option.
Does it go early April, late March, where you want to slot in Texas?
I mean, those would be the options. Right. Or even, do you do a Florida swing where you do
St. Pete and Homestead?
Yeah.
I don't know.
But then again, like, I get those markets are really far away from each other, but does that actually if you have them back-to-back weekends, does that actually help the events? Because you could have people on, spring break or whatever and hit up both races potentially.
It at least helps the travel of the teams. Like, just stay down there.
Yeah, that makes it easier.
But again, does Homestead want an IndyCar race?
No.
We have not seen any indications that they do, unfortunately.
Time for news and notes. A few things to get to. First off, Honda. HPD will be rebranded as Honda Racing Corp USA starting January 1st, 2024. No changes to their IndyCar program. It just is a new name.
Just a name change.
More tied into Honda of Japan, because Japan-based HRC. They'll have a more globally focused racing program. This will help with sports car efforts. I would assume it would help with like IMSA, WEC, and perhaps IndyCar, and as far as just kind of sharing data, that aspect.
Right.
So not a bad thing at all. Not something to worry about a whole lot.
Don't get crazy.
No. Pato Award will be back in a McLaren F1 car in Abu Dhabi. He'll take part in FP1 for that. Also, looks to be set for another test after the season at the Yas Marina circuit. That will be the other chance that will be after the race there. He did that last year. Also, he finished 4th in IndyCar standings this year. He has enough super license points from the past 3 seasons. Gained an extra point for his test last year in F1 for the FP1. And then drivers can pick 3 of their past 4 seasons as far as best results due to the impact of COVID. So he would have 40 super license points, which means he would be a reserve driver if that gets approved. So good for him. It worked out after all.
Good for him. Although I don't see a McLaren seat coming anytime soon with Oscar Piastri getting re-upped.
No.
Also, was it true that you tried to check in as Alex Palou into the McLaren hotel room at Singapore that they had under his name? Is that true or not?
No.
Zach Brown kidding around about that. The room was reserved for him. Didn't show, shockingly.
Couple of notes at Juncos. The less crazy thing, they will have a new team manager as Vince Kramer parted ways with the team. So they will have a new replacement at the beginning of October that will take over that role. Meanwhile, more fallout from really just the lack of defending their driver, Callum Ilott, with the incident with Canapino at Laguna Seca. More interesting responses on all of this. Callum Ilott still under contract, but as far as what happened, I mean, it's not really
he doesn't seem to of the 2 drivers, he's clearly the one that Juncos looks after the least. They're protecting Agustin Canapino because he's probably bringing them a majority of the money.
Here's the quote. I don't think we need to make a big deal. This happens. The drivers can have the option not to use social media to block the comments if they're going to be sensitive to all that. He also points to misinterpretation as an underlying problem that's exacerbated the issue. Talking about the passion of the Argentinian fans. But here's the thing. Like, you got to understand, like, this is because it's happened with Ilott. It's been directed at Ilott. Say it happens with Newgarden or Dixon, as Pruitt points out. Does that?
I don't know if it does or not. You're going to have crazies online.
Yeah.
That's the thing. No matter what Juncos says, you're still going to have crazies online. I think that's the thing is, fortunately or unfortunately, sometimes both, social media is an open forum. You can say whatever the hell you want. And unfortunately, there's more than enough nuts. I mean, it happens in soccer all the time. These are the same fans that get crazy at soccer games in South America and Central America and Europe and all this stuff. So we have plenty of nut job fans in the United States when it comes to football and all that stuff. I'm sure. Well, we just had it in the racial stuff with an NFL player.
Yeah, the Vikings.
Was it Justin Jefferson?
No, someone else. I forget.
Oh,
who it
it's
was.
the Madison.
Yeah.
Madison, the running back. Racial stuff. Like it's going to be out there all the time. And I'm sure that's not an isolated incident. I'm sure people have stuff said to them, athletes and stuff all the time on social media. I don't know if this is as big a deal as people are making it out to be. It's a new thing in IndyCar, but I don't think it's a new thing in sport, unfortunately.
The issue I have is that Juncos has had multiple, like this happened in Long Beach and they put out a statement and IndyCar put out a statement, happened at the season finale, took Juncos more than a day after the race to put out a statement. IndyCar's done nothing. They're pretty non-committal.
What do you want IndyCar to do, though?
I just really not so much IndyCar, but Juncos needs to be more supportive and say these attacks are unacceptable. They simply have not done that this time. That's my issue with
I would agree with that, yes.
Couple of notes from the Racer.com mailbag. Pruitt saying that Andretti Global, rumored to receive $250 million in funding from new partners in 2022.
They're not sweating the leader circle.
No. So good for them.
It's just stupid money.
Yeah. It absolutely is. So
they need to get into Formula One just to have somewhere to spend it. Spend all their money.
Yes. And it doesn't seem like they're getting that opportunity. So we shall see. But that was really the main takeaway from the mailbag this week. Some interesting insights on, Ferrucci, does he return to Foyt? All of that. But
still a lot of seats up for grabs, at least.
Yes.
For drivers. Not a lot of prime seats, but seats available.
Meanwhile, a few other notes to get to before we wrap up, get to our random split era driver of the week. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum basement has been cleared out.
140 cars or 140 pieces of automobile memorabilia, at least.
So they're getting ready
you see,
for
the carriages and stuff they have down there.
Oh yeah.
Like you just assume they're all race cars. No, they got like carriages and stuff down there.
Ford Mustangs. I mean, there's just a lot of random vehicles. The first in line van, if you remember that from 1933, a lot of unique vehicles. So you can look at some picture galleries on that. Also, Mario Andretti and Bobby Rahal both say for IndyCar, they need to award championship points for any international event. I don't disagree. But here's the thing. If you have a high payout, that makes up for it.
I would say so. But we'll have to see how much they're paying out. It has to. It would be cool if it's
not
thermal
to be there, but to be like thermal money.
It would be cool if it's thermal money, but we'll see if that's going to be the case.
And a few other items. 100 Days to Indy episodes available on YouTube, only for people in America, unfortunately, on that one in the U.S.
They're not on CW Stream?
They are on CW Stream, but they're also on YouTube.
Gotcha.
And then our tweets of the week. Couple of things. First off, this from Photo Matt. Is Husky chocolate being replaced by white chocolate? There's just a blank sign.
Yeah, they took the Husky chocolate.
And Marshall Pruitt replying, confirm Jason White Chocolate Williams to Chip Ganassi Racing.
If you know Jason Williams is.
If you know, you know.
You know. Whose nickname was White Chocolate.
Yes.
In the NBA.
That is correct. All right. Random split era driver of the week time.
All right. We're going to 2004 and Champ Car. And I left it up on your computer, Caleb.
So I am pulling it up.
You are the man in charge of this week's random split era driver of the week.
Of course, I closed out of it, but I found it. Michael Valiante.
Yes. Michael Valiante did all of one race?
Yes, one race for Walker Racing. Primary sponsor was the Wildlife Conservation Network.
Wow.
Yeah, Canadian driver.
Okay.
A lot of Canadians in 2004 in Champ Car.
Littered the lineup.
Yes, all over the board. He raced in Atlantics, won a handful of races, finished second in 2002. Third in 2003 with Lynx Racing. Did 3 seasons with Lynx Racing, was 9th in 2001. Then in Champ Car, he did in 2004 just the one race, Mexico City, Earned 7 points for that, driving a Reynard Ford with Walker Racing. And then in 2005, he did one race with Dale Coyne Racing. Portland, finished 11th.
Now,
and that's it.
Was there something where he was going to race the California race that was canceled due to wildfires? Is that in there?
That I am not sure.
I'm thinking of another random split era driver.
Yes, he was going to make his debut.
Okay.
But that, as you mentioned, in 2003, that race canceled due to the wildfires. He did make one start for Chip Ganassi Racing in 2007.
Really?
In the then Busch Series, now the Xfinity Series, that at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve.
See? Right
for
in
the
his neck of the woods.
He finished 34. That was his only start. He's competed a lot, 24 Hours of Daytona over the years. Last competed in 2015, finished third in the prototype class at the time. So had some success and did a couple seasons in IMSA. Won at Watkins Glen in both 2014 and 2015. Also won in 2015 at Laguna Seca as well.
So 2 and done in
yes.
Champ Car then.
One for each year. And that was it.
How about that? Another interesting random split era driver of the week, Mr. What is it? Michael Valiante?
Yes, born in New Westminster, British Columbia.
The gift that just keeps on giving the late season Champ Car seasons.
Oh yeah, 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, going to keep
treasure
us going
trove
until 2026
of drivers.
at least.
Yes,
I'm thinking eventually we're going to run out, and then we have to come up with another feature.
We'll just repeat.
Well, I don't know if we'll go to like obscure races or anything like that. I don't know. We'll figure out something. But just when I think we're running out, I find more and more random split era drivers of the week.
All right, so that's a look at everything in the week in IndyCar, and we just actually had some news come down. More to be known Monday about IndyCar returning to the Milwaukee Mile. That from Dave Kallman of the Journal Sentinel, Milwaukee Journal
Press
Sentinel.
Conference? Nothing.
Perhaps.
Maybe. Find out.
We shall see. So
maybe approval by the fair board or whatever it is. I don't know.
A news conference is set for Monday at State Fair Park.
I would imagine they're not calling news conferences to announce that there's not a race at the Milwaukee Mile.
Also, as we mentioned earlier, as a possibility, indications could come on Labor Day weekend. So talks confirmed back in the spring. We've had this for I don't know how long.
Yeah.
Since what, like May or something?
People
May or
listen
June,
to us. Come on.
Before everyone else had it. And they visited the track, obviously. So that is the latest news. So they're likely going to have the announcement on Monday, which tells me the schedule is getting close. $3 million in funding was approved by the State Building Commission in December for upgrades to State Fair Park, which obviously includes the Milwaukee Mile, part of that campus. So,
all right. So now
unclear as who the promoter would be. Bob Sargent said today he thought Track Enterprises would be involved. Wasn't sure how. We thought Penske Entertainment would be the promoter. So they obviously hosted the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series last month. Drew about 15,000 fans. First large-scale event they've had since IndyCar left all the way back in, 2015. Isn't that hard to believe? It's been that long.
Yeah. But all right, people, everybody clamoring for Milwaukee to come back. It's going to come back. You better get your asses there.
Yes, that is true. So we could potentially have the schedule come out next week on Monday is what it sounds like.
Let's hope. Hopefully it's not Friday after we record.
Yeah, I don't think so. So there you go. Next week, look for the IndyCar schedule. That would fit the end of September timeline. And we shall see. Very fascinating stuff.
Let's do it all again next week.
Yeah, that's right. For Justin Kidding, I am Caleb Hatch. This has been New Track Record Podcast.
Podcasts by Federated Media.